Hey guys, welcome to Shino's Arsenal. Make sure you guys are liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and getting into the chat and letting me know how you guys are thinking and feeling. I went into the StreamYard and looked at the comments because I knew there would be some there. And lo and behold, you guys are not happy to see any links to defenders. But I wouldn't be surprised about links to defenders because Arteta is obsessed with center backs. Center backs playing center backs playing left back and right back, center back, center back, center back. So we're going to talk about the two links that have been out there today in Jarrad Branthwaite from Everton, as well as Matthew, whatever. De Ligt from Bayern. We kind of talked about that like a couple of weeks ago, but we'll just touch on it. And then also we have some good news. So yeah, make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel. I need a nap so badly. When I do these shows like early in the morning, like around this time, I start to crash so badly, and like no amount of coffee is going to help. So yeah, after this, I'm going to take a nap. But you guys, good news, because Cedric Suarez is going to leave in January, or that is the word on the street. So this is coming from Sammy McBell. Sammy McBell is saying that Arsenal defender Cedric Suarez is a serious target for Besiktas. Talks are ongoing. Some positivity from Turkey and agreement can be reached. I will pull it up. So talks over a move for Portuguese right back who is surplus to requirements at the Emirates Stadium to join Turkish club are underway. The finer details of the potential move are still to be decided, with Suarez into the final 6 months of his deal at Arsenal, but sources with knowledge of the deal are indicating that an agreement is moving closer. But whether Suarez joins immediately this month or Bosman at the end of the season still needs deciding. One scenario could see Suarez joining on loan this month before joining permanent in the summer. The 32-year-old joined Arsenal from Southampton in 2020, but has fallen down the pecking order under Mikel Arteta. He's just made 2 senior appearances for the club at the start of the season. So this is always kind of how it goes, basically when they start talking about, okay, well, I can either leave now or I can leave in the summer, is you end up having to pay out their contract or, cancel the contract so that they can go on a free now. And that's kind of like Edu's special. Like, we don't really tend to not like every time we get into this situation with players in their last year, we end up canceling their contract like 6 months before or letting them go on a free. Usually end up canceling their contract six months before. So I would not be surprised if Cedric ended up going now. Is my mic cracking, guys? Is my mic cracking? You guys let me know now so I can fix it. Can you guys hear me? Tyrese is saying my mic is cracking up. Can you guys let me know if that's true or not? Guys, let me know. Is it still cracking? Sorry, I just want to make sure before I start again. If not, I'll just use my Mac mic. Now it's off. Am I still cracking, guys? Mute now. Okay. Am I good now, guys? Okay, we're good to go. Okay. So usually when we get into the situation, 6 months left on the deal, we usually end up just letting them go for free. And so I could see Cedric getting his contract canceled so that he'll leave now, some sort of compensation, whatever, because, we're in the last 6 months and we're kind of we do that all the time. I feel like we leave it so late with these players and don't get rid of them because of whatever reason, because, oh, we might need them or the numbers or whatever. And then we end up in this situation. I never imagined that we would get a lot for Cedric because, I mean, we didn't really spend that much on him, I don't think. I think we spent like max We probably spent like max 10 million on him. I'm just looking it up now. How much we spent on him in 2020. Eight. So it was 8 million euros. So what is that, like 5 million pounds or something like that? So we didn't spend a lot on him. Yeah, we didn't spend, damn. No, 10 million. So we bought him in 2019, 2020 in the January window because we bought Pablo Marie as well. I think we bought him for 10 million euros. And then end of loan. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, we spent like 10 million on him euros. So it wasn't a lot. So I didn't never expected to make a significant amount for him, but I expected him to be moved on a lot sooner than this because he's been here since Arteta has been here mostly. Like he's been here almost the entire time and he's been like a signing that he's basically what you would expect if you signed somebody from Southampton that was already in his late 20s that they did not want. I knew it was a red flag when he went to, like, if you go out on loan in your like late 20s in your prime, you're not very good. That's how I knew. Like El Neni, he got loaned out in his prime. If you're getting loaned out in your prime, you're not very good, you know? And so Cedric being loaned out was like, damn, you know? And then Fulham even sent his ass back. So he should have been gone a long time ago. You know, if we're honest, he should have been gone a long, long time ago. But we need to get him out now. You know, if you want to get anything for him, you have to get him out now. But I could totally see him saying, you know what, I'm not going to leave because listen, I want to get my 75,000 pounds per week. And that's a lot, you know, especially when you know whatever next contract you're going to get is not going to be that amount, you know. So Cedric has been not a terrible, not a terrible signing, but like just a nothing signing, you know, because you couldn't have expected much. I don't know if you guys had expected a lot from Cedric, but I never thought he was going to be that good. And you know, so he kind of is like a if you spent 5 million on a player or 7 million on a player, that's kind of what you expect to get. It's just the fact that he's been here for so long, and the only reason why he was here is because Ainsley Maitland-Niles would not accept being a right back. That's the only reason why we have Cedric. That was Arteta's answer to Ainsley Maitland-Niles not wanting to play right back. And so we've been paying Cedric Suarez 75,000 pounds per week to be a nothing player for Arsenal Football Club. So as much as, you know, as much as, you know, he wasn't that bad, he also wasn't good, you know. So yeah. And for people that are saying that Cedric was free, it says Southampton to Arsenal, um, loan, then end of loan, end of loan. So let's see. Yeah, it's maybe he was free. I don't know. I think you're right. I think he was free. Maybe that's why the thing was so high. So no, we didn't spend 10 million. I'm sorry, I was reading this wrong. It was a loan, then an end of a loan, then a free transfer. So we got him on a free transfer. We loaned him in first, and then we got him on a free transfer. So yeah, I mean, essentially, that would be the same thing that could potentially happen now, is that with 6 months left, he could be loaned in January from Arsenal to Besiktas, and maybe they cover his wages, and then he becomes a free transfer at the end of the season, which is basically what we did with him. So no, we didn't spend any money on him, so he's a free transfer, but it's probably why the wages were a lot higher and what might end up happening. But beyond that, Cedric just needs to go, and so I'm happy for him to go because he's been doing nothing for years now. Nuances of Fate says we hold on to these players for no reason. Ainsley Maitland-Niles is another one we should have sold. We're going to have to talk about Eddie at some point. I do not want to have more Eddie conversations. I said this on the most recent, the first episode of the Cannon Club, that the last thing I want to do is continue to have Eddie conversations, because talking about Eddie in 2024 is actually giving me a headache. We should not be speaking about Eddie and Nketiah in 2024. We should be beyond these conversations. We should be beyond the Cedrics, beyond the Eddies, but these guys stick around for so long. And so, yeah, like, I don't know what's going to go on with Eddie, but I'm happy to see the back of Cedric, hopefully. Either way, we're either going to see the back of him in January or the back of him in the summer. Like, it's over. Great. Alive Forever says 75,000 pounds per week. What did Arteta smoke to get this so wrong? Well, thinking about, like, okay, because if we did get him on a free, it looks like we did get him on a free. The wages usually are higher for players that you get on a free. But either way, we've spent some nonsense money for no reason. Um, you know, Social Join says, what's happening with Cedric? Apparently a deal can be done. I don't know. It could be we cancel his contract and let him go for free now, or we loan him to Besiktas and they, maybe pay the rest of his wages and he goes on a free at the end of the season, or he just stays and collects his money and goes in the summer. Hopefully we get him gone in January some way or another. Alive Forever says Frimpong was available then, but we went for Cedric. It feels like we always do, like, the most obvious thing is to go get like an old, Premier League player or something like that. Like, we need to think outside the Premier League sometimes and think of, like, okay, well, what could be beneficial to us? Would it be better to bring in, an older guy that's just going to sit around and rot? Or should we bring in, a player that's younger that could be at least developed into something? Now, we've tried that with Tavares, but there's young players that you could develop that are not Nuno Tavares. We have poor scouting. Like, Nuno Tavares coming to Arsenal for 9 million euros or 8 million euros and we'll talk about Tavares in a second too, because there's been some information around him too, but getting Nuno Tavares for 8 million euros or whatever it was, but Brighton are able to bring in that Valentin Barco guy for 10 million, even though it was like a release clause, 10 million. It just shows, like, the levels of being able to be smart and, like, creative in the market and not just bring in nonsense. It's like we never get it right. We either bring in, like, a young player that needs development that doesn't really fit. Arteta can't figure out how to make them work, and they end up out in the wilderness like Sambi and freaking Nuno Tavares, or you bring in an old ass dude and let him rot. Where is the midpoint for us? Like, I would love for us to have, like, a midpoint of, like, let's just get it right, but we don't tend to get it right. So we need to figure that out. But, Cedric going would be great. Hopefully it is now rather than later. But yeah, that was some news on Cedric. And also, just really quickly before we get into the Branthwaite and De Ligt news, we have to talk about let's see. We have to talk about Nuno, because Nuno's loan apparently is going to be revised or looked at or reviewed, and he could end up coming back to Arsenal, because they have obviously Nottingham Forest. I don't know if you guys know this, but Nottingham Forest and Everton are in deep shit. They haven't adhered to the rules and regulations and all that kind of stuff. Both of them are in trouble. And so they're going to need to look at some of the players that they have on loan. This also comes into when we start talking about Everton and Branthwaite, that all, but Nuno's loan will be reviewed by Forest and Arsenal, because there's a possibility that he could be recalled because he may not be able to stay there. Nottingham Forest will adopt a cautious approach during this winter transfer window. The club will stick with their current goalkeepers, and the loans of Nuno Tavares and Divock Origi may be reviewed. So, there is a chance that maybe he won't stay. I mean, at Nottingham Forest, Nuno has not been playing barely any minutes at Nottingham Forest. I'm not really surprised about that. We really needed to figure out a way to cash in on him when he was at Marseille, but I don't know if he shit the bed there because he had issues with, the manager. But there was like a half a season where Nuno was doing good things and it just all went to shit. And now he's, at Nottingham Forest doing nothing. And so Hopefully he doesn't end up back at Arsenal, and I don't want to see anybody in the comment section saying we should give Nuno a chance. No, we should not give Nuno a chance. We need to figure out a way to move him on because he's not going to make it. We know he's not going to make it. I don't know what it is with this guy, but like he's just not well liked. He doesn't get a lot of playing time, and yeah, it's just he hasn't really played at all for Nottingham Forest, guys. So yeah. Saturdays equals youth says, I like the idea of getting young players with a young manager and growing the team. That's not for immediate short-term success, though. Social Join says the scout team or Arteta seem to bring players that would fit trending style, and it never works out. Swan says, if Arsenal had any of Gakpo, Jota, or even Nunez, I'd be more willing to think they have a chance. Seawalder says, yikes. Social Join says, send this Nuno guy to Fulham, West Ham for F's sake. What is Edu do up there? And the Arsenal perspective says, Nuno's season at Marseille resembles Arsenal seasons of late. Yeah, there was like a moment where he was at Marseille and people were like, oh my God, see, Nuno, we should have kept him. And now you guys see why we needed to figure out a way to move him on quickly. Like these loans after loans after loans just end up messing us over. Like they really need to take that loan and we need to figure out a way to move them on permanently because now it's going to be even harder, you know. But Nuno, it's likely just to be, you know, reviewed. You know, that doesn't necessarily mean that it'll be canceled or he'll end up coming back, but there is a chance of it because he's one of the players on loan that doesn't play at all really for Nottingham Forest. So if they need to cut ties, he'll probably be one of the first ones to get the chop. So there you go. Unknown one says Arsenal are going to sign Santiago Jimenez, the Feyenoord forward. Where do you see that at? I haven't seen that. Boy says, is the fan base ever going to stop being scared of signing teenagers? I feel like it's the young players that we buy and the way that the manager integrates them. I don't feel like we have the right environment. I would love for us to have the right environment, but I don't feel like we do. You know, I feel like you can't be buying players that are younger that need adaptation that don't even fit your style of play. Like, or you're not going to be able to modify. I mean, Arteta can bear it. Like, he doesn't even modify his system for Trossard. You know, like he's like, oh, Trossard, go stand on the touchline and try to make shit happen. Martinelli can't do it. You know, Trossard's ass is not going to be able to do it. So bringing in young players, like sometimes you have to adapt shit to make sure that you you know, you fill them with confidence. I feel like when you expose them in position, you know, like an example, Sambi, he wasn't that young. He was like 22 when we bought him, but you exposed him to the lone six role while Thomas Partey was out. And yeah, some people could say, well, that just means he's not good enough. But how many young players do you see at other clubs that struggle in those types of roles without support around them? And so I just feel like I would love for us to bring in young players that have a lot of talent that could be, you know, integrated and developed. But the only way that that works is if the manager knows how to set up a team to limit the damage with young players in it. And you also have to have that those fine margins to allow those mistakes from those younger players to not, you know, to not crumble the game that you're playing. You know, so when you put Sambi in the lone six against Manchester United and you play a high fucking line, you know, you're setting us up for failure and the margins that you have, like there's not enough margin for Sambi in that game to make a mistake and it not cripple us. And that's exactly what happened. He could not figure out where to be because he wanted to be too high and he didn't want to sit in. And we got done on the counter twice in a row while he was in that position. And so I just feel as though like in Arsenal don't have that level of margin to allow for those players to make those types of mistakes. They end up being fatal, right? And so I love bringing in young players that can develop because I feel like for a team like Arsenal that don't have unlimited funds, that's a really good way of like cheating the market. But we don't bring in the right players, and Arteta he doesn't he doesn't keep them safe. He doesn't give them, you know, he doesn't wrap them in cotton wool. He exposes them to the elements. And so we don't have the right environment right now to develop young players, in my opinion. We could, but we don't, you know. So there's that. You know, Chris Frazier says we don't have proper development plan for a lot of these players. If you don't know how to develop young talent by pre-developed players, Arsenal make everything difficult. Social Join says Sambi, Fabio Tavares were all bought during the 3-5-2 stage. Now they don't fit in. Well, Fabio was bought in the same window as Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus. That was the window. It was Fabio Vieira, Zinchenko, and Gabriel Jesus. So we went straight into that season, and actually the season prior. So we stopped playing the three at the back. We stopped playing three at the back after Arteta's first season, full season. So Nuno and them actually, you're right, they did come in when we had first switched from like the three back, like fucked up system and then started going to more of like a possession system, like more with like the 4-3-3 or the 4-2-3-1, right? But Fabio Vieira was bought in the 4-3-3 era. So I'm not really sure why he doesn't fit, but I feel like the main reason why Fabio Vieira doesn't fit is because he's a pockets player that needs to be played in advanced positions where he can get in and around the box to make the passes that he can make. And what ends up happening is anytime you stick an Arsenal player on the wing, they're expected to do what Saka and Martinelli do. And Saka and Martinelli are struggling as it is to do that role, right? And then when you stick him in the 8 role, you expect him to do what Xhaka and Odegaard do. And Xhaka and Odegaard are two-way players. They do the defensive work and they also do the attacking work. But Fabio's a little bit more on the fluffy side. You know, he'll do his little tackles here and there, but really you want him as far away from your goal as possible. And so Arteta doesn't put the likes of like Trossard and Fabio Vieira in positions in and around to where they arrive in positions in and around the box to do what they do the best. He makes them play in positions that don't suit them. He doesn't modify the tactics. And so specifically on Fabio Vieira, that's why he looks good when we're in position in game states where we're just attacking, whether that's chasing the game or we're ahead, is because it allows him to do the things that he does best. But you don't want to spend 40 million on a player that is only good to you in certain game states. So it's up to the manager to figure out like ways to make that game state more frequent for that player. And he doesn't do that, you know? So yeah, but that's neither here nor there, you know, because I don't really think that like we need to be going into the Nuno Tavares type of, you know, recruitment anymore. I feel like we just need established players now for the next window or so, and then we can reevaluate this whole idea about developing players because we ain't got it. You know, we ain't got it. We don't have it. You know, we're not developing. We're not doing it. So yeah, make sure you guys are liking the video, subscribing to the channel. And Shamaria says, when does Fabio Vieira come back? They said it's still weeks. Still weeks before Fabio Vieira comes back. Zinchenko is trying to be fit enough for Saturday, but it's unlikely. So, and Jesus is back. So that's good, I guess, you know. Afsar says, how do Arsenal sell Fabio Vieira, Lakanga, Tavares, ESR? Nobody wants them, so we are stuck with them for a while. No, Aston Villa and Newcastle both want ESR. So that is not true. We just won't sell Emil Smith-Rowe because we want to hold him hostage for some reason. But yeah, we 100% have players that we can sell. Now, Lakanga and Nuno Tavares are probably not going to end up being those players. But if you put Fabio Vieira on the market, I'm sure somebody would come and get him, especially like if in Spain or somewhere like that. But ESR definitely has some lookers, you know. But listen, there's 130 of you guys in here, so make sure you guys are liking this video, subscribing to the channel. Let's talk about Jarrad Branthwaite, who's been linked to Arsenal. Definitely not the type of player that most of us would be interested in at the moment or excited about because guess what? He's another defender. A very good defender, but a defender nonetheless. And so this is coming from Alex Crook on Talk Sports, said Everton may sell Jarrad Branthwaite as he is probably their most sellable asset. Arsenal are tracking the situation amongst other clubs. A lot of clubs are worried about FFP. Only one permanent signing made in the Premier League so far. And so everybody is skint and everybody is on that line because everybody had massive summers. Chelsea, massive summer. Liverpool, massive summer. Arsenal, massive summer. Man United, massive summer. Everybody spent a lot of money this past summer. So everybody is on that line. And Everton are like Nottingham Forest are in trouble again. Like Everton, if they get another, points deduction, I mean, what is the what like what kind of karma has to come your way where you finally get the perfect coach for your style and your club? And Sean Dyche, who is doing a miracle worker's job on that group and help them escape the relegation zone to get a points deduction, then help them escape it again, only to get another points deduction. Like I want Everton to go down mostly because I'm tired of going to Goodison Park. I'm sick of going to that place. Um, but at the same time, it's like you have to say that that's incredibly unlucky if they were to get another points deduction. Now, that being said, they need to sell somebody. They need to sell some of their players, and Everton have some decent players that you could look at, or maybe just like one or two. Maybe just one or two, um, and that's Nana and Branthwaite, and everybody wants Branthwaite. Like it's not just us. Like this kid is gonna be like the next thing. Next John Stones, let's call it. Where everybody's gonna be desperate to bring him in, but um, he's English. Yeah. Yeah, he's English. So there's that too. He's English. Um and he plays for the under 21s. He's 21 years old and he's a massive guy. Like he's a massive dude and he looks very good. He's good with his feet. He's very good. Now, um he's very good in the air as well. I saw like some stats that he's very high up there rankings in terms of defensive headers, like aerially, defensively. He's very good. He's like top, I think he's top of the list for under 23 players. So Arsenal is a team that I wouldn't say we do kind of struggle with the aerial duels. Like when we're not playing well, sometimes you just need somebody to get their head on the ball. That could be something that is useful to Arsenal if they were to look at a player like this, because it does feel like sometimes we can be a little weak in the header, i.e. Kivior, against Liverpool. It's like, what are you doing? Ben White against West Ham, heading it in the back of his own net. Sometimes on defensive corners, we can be a little fucked up. So he would definitely help with that. He's really good in his aerial duels, his clearances, interceptions, tackles, all that shit. Like he's a typical center back, but he does have the ball playing ability. He's a good player. Like when I watch him play, he passes the eye test. He looks mobile enough. Like he's good. Him and Tarkovsky are a very, very good partnership back there. The question is do we need to be focusing on center back? I can name a couple of other Premier League clubs that probably need to focus on this position a little bit more than we do. Man United. But I do think that we need another center back. Is it high off of the list? Hell no. Arsenal need a freaking midfielder, a striker, a winger before they even need to look at defense again. But I am sure that, another goal. I'm sure that Arsenal are going to look at this position because they're going to want to bring in another center back that can play that center back position, and he can definitely do it. So listen, if we have to bring in a center back, if we're going to bring in somebody of quality. He's a good player. I wouldn't mind him. He passes all the English, Premier League proven, can play that position. But if we're going to have a little bit of cash to spend, it just cannot go on a defender, can it? The only way that I would say that this makes a little bit of sense is if we feel like Saliba's on the edges of an injury. And we know what life is like without him. So making sure you have somebody that could play that position would be great. That's not Declan Rice, but, listen, another center back would send this fan base into complete meltdown, bigger meltdown than we've seen in a while. So, yeah, but I want to at least what you guys think about the player. You know what I mean? Because yeah, I want to know what you guys think about the player, because I know some of you guys are probably like, I don't want him. He's a center back. But as a player, he's interesting because at some stage we will need to bring in another center back because Kivior is not going to make it. Sorry, hate to break it to you. He's not going to make it. I've seen this story many times before. Fabio Vieira and freaking Kivior are going to end up on loan soon. I've seen this story before. First it starts out, they play a couple of games, they're pretty good. Takes them a long time to adapt because they don't play enough minutes. Then when we start to see them, they get 10 minutes there, 20 minutes there, 5 minutes there. We try to understand why they're not good enough, why they can't be consistent. Oh, they don't get consistent minutes, so we expect them to have consistent performances. Arteta plays them out of position. They suffer a little bit, and then second, third season, they end up on loans, until we end up giving them away for free. So Kivior is not going to make it. Sorry. I like Kivior, and I think he's been done dirty more than once, but that's just my opinion. They'll go out there and re-spend in this position because they got Kivior wrong, or Arteta doesn't like him, or he doesn't trust him, or whatever. So get somebody in the Premier League that can do the role, whatever. Here to there says Branthwaite good, but would be expensive, and we'd obviously have much bigger issues. Foxy says Branthwaite was available for 25 million last summer, now probably double the price. Future England center back. Social Join says, yeah, but Everton were moving mad. Rodriguez, Barca players, Sigurdsson. Let's see. Lucas says, well, Goodison Park is not for long anyway. Lucas says, we were linked with him when he was a kid, like 5 years ago. Social Join says he's 6'5" and left-footed, played in the Dutch league. He's pretty decent. And that's the thing. It's like Arsenal, like they keep wanting to bring in players that play left-sided center back. And if they could find a left-sided center back that can also play center back, I'm telling you guys, Arteta wants a different center back pairing. He does. Like, I feel like he wants a different center back pairing. He wants a center back pairing that allows the inversion to be unpredictable. The only way that you can get an inversion where you can invert on either side is if you have two players at center back that can play center back. Because remember, we kind of discussed this the other day, and I told you I'd figured it out. I'd figured out why Thomas Partey was playing on that side is because Arteta wants to be able to invert on the right or the left. And the only way that you can do that is if Gabriel is not back there, because he cannot play center back. He's a train wreck in the center because it's a completely different role than the role that he usually plays. And so if you're going to play that way, you need a center back or a left-sided center back that can do that role. And he definitely can do that role because, like somebody said, he's similar to John Stones. And so Arteta wants a different center back. Now, how many times are we going to have to freaking buy the center back? How many times are we going to have to buy the center back? Like, it's a nonsense. Like, we really need to stop buying center backs. Seriously. But I can see Arsenal doing it again. I can see Arsenal doing it again. Mr. Happy says Bristol Rovers knocked West Ham out of the FA Cup. Oh, nice. Blank face Killa says the problem is Arteta and Ezio always mess up the window. They start well and then they think the pats on their backs go to their head and start getting ideas. The Arsenal perspective says higher up in the board, they need to manage the manager and stop spending at some point and let Arteta, the coach, get the best out of all of the squad. John P says Branthwaite is okay on the ball, but he's more of a Gabriel type. He loves heading and defending on the floor a lot. Chris Fraser says he's genuinely a good player, but we will develop. Will we develop him properly or give him the Sambi Kivior treatment? I don't think Arsenal would bring in somebody like Branthwaite and let him just fester. He's a Premier League player. I definitely think Arteta struggles with players outside of the Premier League, and that's why we do Premier League proven a lot, but listen, I totally get what you guys are saying. Like, it's not exciting because we don't really need a center back right now because when you have a first 11 that doesn't feel complete, it's difficult to think about players that are probably not going to start, because you would imagine Branthwaite wouldn't start all the time or like right away. And so when you have a team where you're like looking at left center mid and you're looking at the striker and you're like, those are really the priorities because we don't even have the right starters for that position. It's hard to think about players that are probably just going to end up being rotational options at the back or, whatever. But this position does need to be, if this is what Arteta wants to do, that position will at some point be addressed. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Boy says stop talking about starters and backups. Every position is up for rotation. Not with Arteta's Arsenal. The only reason why I talk about backups and starters is because that's how Arteta's built the team. So whether I talk about backups and starters or not, it doesn't really change the fact that Arteta's built the team in a way where there's a clear starting 11 and bench players. So until he creates an environment with true competition in it, I will address it as starters and backups because that's what Arteta has. There is no competitions for places at Arsenal, and it hasn't been since Arteta's been there. Starters, backups. Starters, backups. Every position is not up for grabs. It should be, but it's not because that's how Arteta builds the team, not me. So until Arteta decides that he wants the team to have genuine competition, meaning if you're not playing well, you will be dropped and other players can take your spot. So when they get 20 minutes here or there and they play well, they get the nod in the next game. That's on Arteta. He does not want competition for places. He likes his main starting 11 and guys that just bring the waters and the tea. That's not on me, you know? Um, so yeah. But like I'm saying, until we get that starting striker and probably that other midfielder, it's going to feel really weird talking about players that may or may not be genuine starters, in the team. The Arsenal perspective says so we don't really have any impactors. I remember in the US when they stopped when they started doing this thing. I think it's because maybe the Tar Heels started it first. I don't know who started it first, but in US like college football, soccer, whatever, you used to have your starting group and then you'd have players that could come in and those would be the subs. And the first time I ever heard this name was then it was from Anson Dorrance and he was calling them game changers, the subs. He stopped calling them subs or backups. He started calling them game changers. And I was like, oh, you change the name of it and it totally sounds different. And I think the psychology around a squad is to make sure that everybody feels important. And when you call them a game changer instead of a backup or a sub, they feel like they have an opportunity to change the game and impact the result. With Arsenal, it's very much so the starting 11, rain or shine, no matter what, unless you're Tomiyasu. Tomiyasu and Nketiah seem like they can get into the starting 11. But Emile Smith-Rowe, Trossard, these guys, no matter how bad, Martinelli or Odegaard or Kai Havertz or any of these guys play, they don't get a look in. And when they play well, they get dropped right back down to the bench. That's not really motivating. That's not really making you feel like you're have a genuine chance of starting in this team. And so it's not an even playing field, and the guys are just riding around on the bench, so they're not feeling like game changers, in my opinion. They don't come out there and look like game changers. They look like players that when given the opportunity, they know no matter what happens in this 20 minutes, I'm not going to get a chance. And quite frankly, like if I'm Trossard and ESR and the game is gone and you give me 3 minutes at the end, I'm not going out there. The way that Arteta did that against Liverpool, I thought sucked. It stunk. It was awful. So, he needs to think about that. But the last player that I want to talk about really quickly is De Ligt. And we're only going to mention it really quickly because he's having problems with Tuchel. Shock. Everybody that plays for Tuchel has problems with him. But, they mentioned us again in this German report that Arsenal are keen on De Ligt and the summer move is looking more and more likely. But he's also sustained an injury, I think, like today, so he's going to be out for a while, but that won't stop Arsenal from going to get him. Listen, if you have to buy in this position, can you not buy this heavy man? Can you not? Like, I don't see it for De Ligt. But yeah, they said he's only going to be out for like a week. But I just have a feeling that this guy is garbage, and I've never watched a game that he played and thought, wow, he's so good. I've always thought You're getting over because you were part of that Ajax team, but we know who was a part of that Ajax team that was actually a baller, and you probably were not it. I don't know if it was going to Juventus and then going to Bayern, but the guy just, I mean, Kim came straight in. Now it's Kim and Upamecano, and it ain't you. You know, you know, and he's heavy. He's gonna be expensive. Every time I watch it, it's like he's on the ground. Like if you get by him, you're by him. Like I'm just no, no. De Ligt, I don't know. People are saying he's world class center back. If somebody thinks he's world class, can you please explain to me what you see in this boy? Because I don't see it. I would prefer Branthwaite or Diamande. I think the two of them are better than him. And if you're going to spend a fucking arm and a leg on another center back, go get somebody that's not heavy and made of glass. I don't know why I watch him and I'm just like, damn, you seem heavy, like, no, it's no. John P says De Ligt is pretty slow. Not sure he suits us exactly. Like I'm just looking at him standing at the halfway line. And once you're by him, you're by him. Like he's big and he's like I said, Saliba is kind of like, but he can pick up speed. This guy ain't picking up speed. He's slow like a truck. Saksham says De Ligt doesn't have pace. He can't replicate our CB. Diamande is a much better option. Social Join says pass on De Ligt. Tuchel is like Ten Hag level man management. Boy says I like De Ligt. Okay. The Arsenal perspective says Ajax tax. Vesper says, do you sack Arteta if Porto knocks you out? Actually curious. Let's wait to talk about that if and when we get knocked out. Chris Fraser says he's injured half the time. Perfect for Arsenal. Exactly. We love an injury-prone player, don't we? The Arsenal perspective says too much Ajax tax for many of those players from the Ten Hag era. Who do you actually think from that team actually ended up being world-class or ended up being as good as the hype was? Let's look at it. Ajax. Let's see. Let's look. Is this it? I'm just looking up the team. You guys will probably put some of them in the chat. I just want to make sure I get. Okay, Andre Onana. Did he end up being world class? You guys let me know in the comments. Joel Veltman, that's now at Brighton. Is he world class? I don't think anybody projected him to be such. Mateus De Ligt, Matthew De Ligt, whatever. Now at Bayern. Is he world class? Daley Blind, now at Girona. Formerly Manchester United. Nicholas Tagliafico. Don't know where you're even at anymore. Urian Timber. Let's go. Las Schoen. Don't know you. Frankie De Jong. He's the one. He did end up being world class. The guy is so good. Like he's actually wasting away at Barcelona. He's actually wasting away. I know he loves it there and he's settled, but shit. Like honestly, they don't like you very much. Every time they look to sell somebody, your name is floating around. They owe you loads of back wages. And the next wonder kid that comes out of their academy, that comes out of La Masia, you're going to be on the doorstep. They don't like you very much. So you should start looking for a place to go. Maybe Arsenal. Donny van de Beek. Hakim Ziyech. Dusan Tadic. David Neres. And Majraoui. So, yeah. Lots of tax there. Loads of tax there. Lots of tax there. Lots of tax there. But, yeah. Lots and lots of tax there. But out of all of those, De Jong, he's the one that ended up being super special. And he's wasting away at Barcelona under Xavi. So that sucks. Social Join says need to pay 80 million to get Frankie De Jong out of there. Covers that back pay. I'll be honest, like, I would take him in a freaking second. I would forego a signing or two just to bring him in because he solves so many of our problems. Like, he makes sure that you don't have to invert from the left anymore. He brings up your technical level in midfield. He would be the perfect partner for Declan Rice. It would allow Odegaard to do his thing. It's the midfield of my dreams. It's the midfield of my dreams. Like, if I could pick a midfield, that's what I would do. I would just Odegaard, Declan Rice, and Frankie de Jong. Poof, just like that. If I could go and, like, I'm like, okay, well, if you want Frankie de Jong, you can only have 2 signings this summer. Great. Give me Frankie de Jong and a striker, and I'm done. And we deal with what we deal with. Whatever injuries come about, I don't care, you know, because you're bringing in world-class players and they can help keep you afloat, when shit goes south, where right now the players that we have can't do it. Section says Barcelona looking to replace Xavi with Arteta. Yeah, I don't know what to say. I don't know. I feel like if Arteta were going to leave Arsenal, it'd probably be in that way. That's what I'll say. I don't think he'll get sacked. I think he will leave. Nostradamus says De Jong is not world class. Yeah, in my opinion, he is. Like, in my opinion, he is. I don't really know what makes him not world class. I mean, he's fantastic. He's playing in a team that is being coached by Xavi. I feel like he's just, to me, he's a special player, but I don't know. That's just me. That's just me. Vesper says Frankie rejected Man United. No way he's coming to Arsenal. Come on. Maybe you should go back and read some of the quotes that he had a couple of years ago, speaking about how he feels about Arsenal. That's all I'm going to say. The Arsenal perspective says, if that happened, who would you get as a replacement for Arteta? I don't know, you guys. I don't know who I'd bring in. I don't have like a manager choice. I don't really. I don't want to go backwards. I don't want to go with somebody and think that the grass is just always greener because Arteta's not doing well right now or we're in poor form. I can't see anybody on the market right now as a manager that instantly makes us into title winners. Because that's what we're talking about right now, right? Excuse me. We're not talking about somebody that's going to do the same things that Arteta's doing right now, And people are saying Arteta needed to win a major trophy. So we're not talking about somebody that could win the odd domestic trophy either. So who's out there on the market beyond Pep and Klopp and Ancelotti that would guarantee you major honors? I don't know that I see anybody that definitely does that for us. And, we've seen other managers come back that are like serial winners to the Premier League of this era and flop massively. So I'm not sure that I know who that person is, but I do feel like that's the only way out. Like, if we are going to move away from Arteta, I think it'll be because he wants to leave rather than we want him to leave. I think they're very settled with him, if I'm honest. Let's see. Nico says, nah, De Jong is world class. What are you guys smoking? Blaze says, it seems like if De Jong wants to come to the Premier League, I can see he will come to United. I don't think he would go to United, if I'm honest with you. He had the opportunity to, and he did not want to. He was holding back. No, I'm just joking. But it depends on where all the clubs are. If United are not in Champions League or they're still struggling, then no. I think anybody, even Manchester City, Arsenal, have a chance, We would need to throw our hat in the ring and not be pussies about it and be like, well, he's going to go to United. Like, we see players don't go to United. Some players say no, so it's not 100% just because he played for Ten Hag once upon a time that he ends up at United. I mean, Timber ended up here, he could have played for Ten Hag. Chris Frazier says De Jong is special. Barcelona are just shit right now. Nobody looks great in that team at the moment. I agree. Let's see. Arsenal perspective says, for me, it's the eyebrow, but he's signed on for Madrid. Social Join says, just get hungry coach with good footballing style. Nah. Don't say that. Don't say that. Just get me a hungry coach with a good footballing style. I feel like some Arsenal fans also just want the football back, and they would almost be happier if we were playing good football, but we were in the same position. You guys want proven winners. You want 100% winners. So let's not talk about just footballing style and hunger. Because Arteta technically has a good footballing style. I don't know what happened to it this season, but last season, y'all were happy with the style. TBG says, Jess, remember he trialed Gabriel at center back in against United in preseason and Sancho tore him up. Yeah, Arteta wants to be able to invert on both sides. That's why you started off the season with Partey on the right and freaking Timber on the left. I think if Zinchenko had been fit, we would have started off the season with Timber on the right and Zinchenko on the left and Ben White and Saliba in the middle, because that's the only way that you could do the center back bullshit. Think about the way that the system looks when you invert. If you invert on the right, that means that the center back ends up being fucking Gabriel. And he, like you said, against United, he got tore up. And he's not that type of player. So Arsenal are going to go out there and get that player. I know they are, because the dream is to be able to invert on both sides, whether that's Zinchenko and Timber or Tommy and Timber. Both of them inverting. It's going to go bloom, 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 bloom. I don't care about inverting. Fuck it. Like, I just want to see the goals fly in the back of the net. But Arteta is like obsessed with inverting, so he's going to do it on both sides. He's just going to do it on both sides, Let's see. Mr. Happy says, why is Arteta so weird? Just a normal coach that doesn't have to try to reinvent the wheel every season. Why is he so weird? I don't know. Boy says, I think Frankie is world-class for what he does as a midfielder. Elite ball retention, can dribble through the center, can play in both directions, has a killer pass. Yeah, I don't know what people be watching with De Jong, but that guy he's so good. He's so good, and he would fit him perfectly right there at left center mid, and there's nobody really out there that can do it. So whatever. Ambrose says, inverting is to create overloads. I get what it's for. I just don't understand why we have to be beholden to it. It's like we are beholden to the inversion, but yeah, if Arteta wants to invert on both sides, he's going to have to get a different center back. And he tried it with Saliba and Ben White, and it was a fucking train wreck. It was a train wreck. Everybody was all stiff and scared. And you guys remember those first couple of games? It was like, what is going on back here? It's like, because Ben White forgot how to be a center back. Him and Saliba had never played center back together either. And so first day of the season, we're seeing Thomas Partey, Ben White, Saliba, and Tommy after Timber gets injured. And it's just weird back there, but it was all based on being able to invert on both sides. And you can't do that with the players that we have right now. So that would require you almost have to buy 2 more defenders, buy you another right back or left back, and also buy another center back. And that's a lot more defenders to just do some nonsense, So yeah, that's what I see. Chris says, we don't get pressed in our third anymore, so midfield inversion doesn't help as much anymore. Can Mikel not see this? It's crazy. Nobody presses us at all. We just run into the halfway line and just start playing. It's crazy. I don't know. Let's see what Arteta is going to try to do. But in terms of defenders, I know that, it's not exciting to talk about defenders. I'm tired of talking about defenders, but the reality is Arteta is going to buy more defenders. So if he's going to buy them, buy good ones and buy ones that solve our problems. I feel like Timber would have solved a lot of our problems, but he unfortunately got injured. And so we ended up with, Zinchenko, and Zinchenko's injury prone. And so we have some problems back there because Timber didn't, he had that unfortunate injury, but buy players that are just we're going to be done. You buy Declan Rice, you're done. You buy Timber, you're done. When they do the striker signing, it needs to be right as well, because you don't want to have to rebuy in that position. But I just want to see Arsenal, prioritize the attacking positions. And then if you want to buy a defender, buy it, but make sure you get it right, but focus on attack, because we don't have enough attackers. So yeah. Let's see. Sakshem says, I can't believe you guys seriously believe in that inverted stuff. The reason why you can believe in the inverted stuff is because we watched it. We watched us play with the inversion last season, and we were really good. The problem that we have this season is we're not getting the balance right, because you still, you almost don't get the overload that you need when you have one midfielder that's not playing midfield. It's still taking one away. So you add Zinchenko in, but you lose Kai Havertz, and so you have two less feet in there to hit, if that makes sense. And so when you have Xhaka there, that's like a real midfielder, and you have Zinchenko and Martinelli is over there, you have more going on and you have more overload, where with Havertz right now, you're not really getting that same feeling, that you were getting with Zinchenko. But the idea that inversion doesn't work is nonsense, because we did it last season. We just needed to update it a little bit. And basically, if you're going to invert, you just need to make sure that you don't get done the other direction. And Timber would have made sure that that happened, because even though we only saw him in one game, it was very clear to see that he's a better defender than Zinchenko. He played against Manchester City in preseason and was really good. And we only conceded once he came off. The minute he came off, we conceded. So the inversion does work. It's, for me, it's not something that I feel like we should be basing our entire system around. And we need to have ways of being able to build up without doing it. And the only way you could do that is if you have three really good midfielders, right? Which we don't usually have. We usually have fucking, Havertz in there, and then that's like not having a midfielder, so you have to have the inversion. But like when we played against Liverpool, we didn't really invert in that game. We didn't, because we had Kivior, but we had three midfielders, so it was fine. So it works. We just shouldn't. Our whole system can't be built around it, I think. But right now we're kind of beholden to it because of the decisions that were made in the summer, and Timber's injury. So it is what it is. But here to there says Klopp is doing the inverted stuff quite well this year. Yeah, I feel like the inverted thing is because of who we have inverting. It pisses people off that we do it. When you look at other teams and they're doing it as well. De Zerbi does it, Pep does it, Klopp is doing it. Ten Hag tried and failed it. Ange does it with Pedro Porro. Like, it's not that deep. The inverted stuff is that right now we really struggle to do what we need to do without inverting with Zinchenko, because we have different midfielders in there and their strengths are not the same as Xhaka and Partey. So that's all I'm going to say. But listen, this was going to be a short one because I need to go take a nap, and I was already hanging badly before we started this stream. But I want to thank you guys for being so cool today. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed both streams. I saw some of you guys for both of them, so I really appreciate all you guys' support. And yeah, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. Still waiting to hear back from Diluted, so if you guys see him before I do, remind him to message me so that we can figure out a time to do the show tomorrow. But otherwise, like I said, a new episode of the Cannon Club Patreon version is going to be out on Friday, but you guys know 2 streams a day from now until eternity. So you guys will see me no matter what. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys for the next one. Bye, guys.